The snow fell hard that night in Montana. Jake Morrison pulled his coat tight as he walked back to his cabin. He had spent the day fixing the fence around his animal sanctuary. The wind was getting stronger, and he knew a bad storm was coming. Jake was 32 years old and lived alone in the mountains. He was a veterinarian who took care of wild animals that got hurt. His cabin was small but warm. He had built a clinic next to it where he could help injured animals. Most people thought he was crazy for living so far from town, but Jake liked the quiet. As he reached his front door, Jake heard a strange sound. It was not like any animal he knew. The sound was weak and sad, like something crying for help. Jake stopped and listened. The wind was loud, but he could still hear it coming from behind his cabin. Jake grabbed his flashlight and walked around the building. The snow was already deep, and it was hard to walk. He followed the sound until he found something that made him stop and stare. There in the snow was a small creature unlike anything he had ever seen. The animal was about the size of a house cat, but it looked nothing like any earth animal. Its fur seemed to glow with a silver light that changed colors as Jake watched. The creature had large golden eyes that looked up at him with pain and fear. Strange metal pieces were attached to its small body, and some of them were broken and sparking. Jake knelt down carefully. The creature tried to move away, but it was too weak. Blood was coming from several wounds on its body. One of its legs was bent in a wrong way. Jake could see it was having trouble breathing. "Easy there, little one," Jake said softly. "I want to help you." The creature looked at him with those big golden eyes. Jake could see intelligence there, more than he had ever seen in any animal. This was no ordinary creature. This was something from somewhere else. Jake knew he had to act fast. The creature was dying, and the storm was getting worse. He took off his coat and wrapped it gently around the small being. It did not fight him this time. Jake carried it carefully to his clinic. Inside the clinic, Jake turned on all the lights and the heater. He placed the creature on his examination table. Up close, he could see how badly it was hurt. The metal pieces seemed to be some kind of technology that was part of its body. Some were damaged and leaking a strange blue liquid. Jake washed his hands and got his medical tools ready. He had no idea what this creature was or where it came from, but he was a veterinarian. His job was to save lives, no matter what kind of life it was. First, Jake checked the creature's breathing. Its lungs seemed to work like those of earth animals, but there were differences. He gave it oxygen through a small mask. The creature's breathing got a little better. Next, Jake looked at the wounds. Some were deep cuts that needed to be sewn up. Others were burns from the broken technology. Jake cleaned each wound carefully and used his best thread to close them. The creature stayed still during the whole process, as if it knew Jake was trying to help. The hardest part was the broken leg. Jake had to set the bone and put a small cast on it. The creature made soft sounds of pain, but did not try to bite or scratch him. Jake gave it medicine for the pain and wrapped it in warm blankets. By the time Jake finished, the sun was starting to come up. The storm had stopped, but the snow outside was very deep. Jake was tired, but he stayed to watch the creature. He set up a warm bed for it near the heater and brought water and different kinds of food. The creature slept for most of the day. When it woke up, it looked around with fear until it saw Jake. Then it seemed to relax a little. Jake offered it some water, and the creature drank slowly. Then Jake tried different foods. The creature would not eat meat, but it liked fruits and some vegetables. "You're a vegetarian, aren't you?" Jake said with a small smile. "That's okay. I can work with that." Over the next few days, Jake took care of the creature. He changed its bandages and gave it medicine. The creature got stronger each day. Its fur, which had been dull and gray when Jake found it, started to glow with beautiful colors again. Jake noticed that the creature's fur changed colors based on how it felt. When it was scared, the fur turned dark blue. When it was comfortable, it glowed silver and gold. When Jake petted it gently, it turned a warm pink color. Jake started calling the creature Luna because its fur looked like moonlight. Luna seemed to like the name. She would look at Jake when he said it and make soft, happy sounds. After a week, Luna could walk again, though she still limped a little. She followed Jake around the clinic and even came into the cabin with him. She seemed curious about everything and would touch objects carefully with her small paws. Jake noticed that Luna was very smart. She learned quickly where things were kept and seemed to understand when Jake talked to her. Sometimes Jake felt like Luna was trying to tell him something, but he could not understand what. The strangest thing was that sometimes Jake felt emotions that were not his own. When he was near Luna, he would suddenly feel happy, or sad, or curious for no reason. He wondered if Luna could somehow share her feelings with him. As the days passed, Jake and Luna became close friends. Jake had saved many animals in his life, but Luna was different. She was not just an animal. She was something special, something that came from far away. And somehow, Jake knew that saving her life was going to change his life forever. 6 months had passed since Jake found Luna in the snow. She had grown bigger and stronger. Her fur now shone with bright colors, and the metal pieces on her body worked perfectly again. Luna could now walk and run without any problems. She was healthy and happy. Jake had learned a lot about Luna during these months. She was very smart, smarter than any animal he had ever known. Luna could open doors and use simple tools. She understood everything Jake said to her, and sometimes Jake felt like she was trying to talk back to him. The strange thing was that Jake could feel Luna's emotions more clearly now. When Luna was happy, Jake felt happy too. When she was worried, Jake could feel it in his heart. It was like they were connected in a way that Jake could not explain. One morning, Jake woke up to find Luna sitting in front of the old computer, in his clinic. The screen was on and showing strange symbols that Jake had never seen before. Luna was touching the keyboard with her small paws. "Luna, what are you doing?" Jake asked. Luna looked at him and made soft sounds. Then she touched the screen. Suddenly, Jake heard a voice in his head. It was not his own voice. It was gentle and warm, like Luna's personality. "Jake," the voice said, "I can finally talk to you." Jake sat down hard on a chair. He looked at Luna and saw her golden eyes watching him carefully. "You can talk to me?" Jake said out loud. "How?" "I have been learning," Luna's voice said in his mind. "My people can share thoughts and feelings. I have been practicing with you for months. Now I am strong enough to use my technology to help us understand each other better." Jake felt dizzy. "Your people? Luna? What are you?" Luna moved closer to Jake. Her fur turned a gentle blue color. "My real name is not Luna. It is Zarathel. I am from a world very far from here. My people are called the Kael'thari. We rule over many worlds in the stars." Jake stared at Luna, or Zarathel. "You're a princess." "I am more than that," Zarathel said. "My parents were the Emperor and Empress. They died when I was young. I was supposed to become the ruler of all my people when I was old enough. But my uncle wanted the power for himself. He tried to kill me." Jake felt his heart speed up. "Someone tried to murder you?" Zarathel's fur turned dark. "Yes. My uncle hired bad people to make it look like an accident. I had to run away in a small ship. But the ship was damaged, and I crashed on your world. I was dying when you found me." Jake remembered that terrible night in the snow. He had thought Luna was just a strange animal. Now he learned she was a princess from the stars. "But why didn't you tell me before?" Jake asked. "I was afraid," Zarathel said. "I did not know if you would still help me if you knew the truth. And I was weak. It took months for my body and my mind to heal completely." Jake knelt down and petted Zarathel gently. Her fur turned warm pink. I would have helped you no matter what you were. You were hurt and needed help. That's all that mattered to me. Zarathel made happy sounds. This is why you are special, Jake. In all my life, no one had ever taken care of me just because I needed help. Everyone who was nice to me wanted something from me because I was a princess. But you helped me when you thought I was just a hurt animal. You asked for nothing in return. Jake felt warm feelings that were not his own. He realized they were coming from Zarathel. There is something else I must tell you, Zarathel continued. I was not just hurt in the crash. I was dying from something else too. My people call it the fading. It happens to young Kelthari who do not have strong emotional bonds with others. The cold life of politics and power in my family made me sick. Jake felt worried. Are you still sick? Zarathel's fur glowed bright gold. No, you saved me from the fading too. Your kindness and care gave me the emotional bond I needed to live. You did not just save my body, Jake. You saved my soul. Jake felt tears in his eyes. He had no idea that taking care of Luna had been so important. But I have to leave soon, Zarathel said sadly. Her fur turned gray. My people have been looking for me. They will find this world soon. I must go back and claim my place as ruler. My people need me, and I cannot hide forever. Jake felt his heart break. Do you want to go? Part of me wants to stay here with you, Zarathel said. You have given me something I never had before. A real friend who cares about me for who I'm inside, not what I am. But I have duties to my people. There are millions of Kelthari and other beings who need me to be their leader. Jake understood. He was sad, but he knew Zarathel had to go. When will you leave? Soon. Maybe in a few days. My people's ships are getting close. Zarathel moved to Jake and rubbed against his hand. But I want to give you something first. Zarathel went to a corner of the room where she kept some of her belongings. She came back with a small crystal that glowed with soft light. She put it in Jake's hand. This is a bond crystal, she said. It will let me find you anywhere in the universe. No matter how far apart we are, this crystal connects us. If you are ever in danger, I will know. If you ever need me, I will come. Jake held the crystal carefully. It was warm and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Will I ever see you again? Jake asked. I promise you will, Zarathel said. Her fur glowed with determination. You saved my life, Jake. You gave me love when I needed it most. I will never forget that. Someday I will come back to you, and when I do, I will make sure you are safe and happy for the rest of your life. 3 days later, Jake heard a low humming sound outside his cabin. He and Zarathel went outside to see a beautiful silver ship landing in the snow. It was smooth and shiny, unlike anything humans had ever built. Beings that looked like adult versions of Zarathel came out of the ship. They wore fancy clothes and moved with dignity. When they saw Zarathel, they knelt down and spoke to her, in a language Jake could not understand. Zarathel turned to Jake one last time. I have to go now. But remember, this is not goodbye forever. Keep the crystal safe and think of me sometimes. Jake knelt down and hugged Zarathel gently. I will never forget you, Luna. I mean, Zarathel. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for saving me in every way possible, Zarathel replied. Jake watched as Zarathel walked to the ship with the other Kelthari. She looked back at him once, and her fur glowed with all the colors of the rainbow. Then the ship lifted off silently and disappeared into the sky. Jake stood in the snow for a long time, holding the crystal and feeling very alone, but deep in his heart, he believed Zarathel would keep her promise. Someday, she would come back. 15 years had passed since Zarathel left Earth. Jake was now 47 years old. His hair had gray in it, and his face had lines from years of hard work, but his eyes were still kind and gentle. Jake had built his animal sanctuary into something amazing. Word had spread about the veterinarian in Montana who could save any hurt animal. People brought him creatures from all over the country. Jake had helpers now, but he still took care of the worst cases himself. Every day, Jake wore the crystal that Zarathel had given him. It hung around his neck on a simple chain. Sometimes it would glow softly, and Jake wondered if that meant Zarathel was thinking about him. But it had never pulsed or called to him like she said it would if she needed him. Jake never told anyone about Zarathel. Who would believe him? Instead, he kept her memory alive by being even kinder to every animal he helped. He often thought about the small alien princess who had taught him that kindness could cross any distance or difference. On the other side of the galaxy, Zarathel was now Empress of the Kael'thari Empire. She ruled over 12 star systems and billions of people. She was tall and beautiful, her crystalline fur now flowing like a royal cloak. The broken technology that Jake had helped heal now formed elegant armor that showed her power and status. But being an empress was not easy. Zarathel had to fight many battles to keep her throne. Her uncle and his followers had tried to take power from her many times. There were wars with other empires and problems between different worlds in her territory. Through all of this, Zarathel never forgot Jake. She had a special room in her palace where she kept pictures of Earth and information about humans. She had been watching Earth secretly for years, making sure no other alien races would harm the world where her savior lived. Zarathel had learned everything she could about humans. She found them fascinating. Unlike most species in the galaxy, humans were not afraid to help creatures different from themselves. They had compassion for all living things, just like Jake had shown her. But now Zarathel faced her greatest challenge. Yet, a powerful enemy called the Hegemony was threatening her empire. The Hegemony was a group of warrior races that conquered other worlds and made slaves of their people. They were cruel and cared nothing for peace or mercy. The Hegemony had sent a message to Zarathel. They wanted her to give them tribute and allow them to take control of some of her worlds. If she refused, they would attack with their huge fleet of warships. They had already destroyed 3 other empires that had stood against them. Zarathel sat in her throne room, surrounded by her advisors. They were all worried and scared. The Hegemony was very powerful, and their own fleet might not be strong enough to stop them. "Your Majesty," said General Veltar, her oldest advisor, "perhaps we should consider giving them what they want. We could save millions of lives by avoiding war." "If we give in to them now, they will only want more later," Zarathel replied. "The Hegemony does not stop until they own everything. We must fight them." "But how can we win?" asked another advisor. "They have more ships and more soldiers than us." Zarathel was quiet for a long time. She touched a small device on her wrist that always showed her information about Earth and the solar system where Jake lived. An idea began to form in her mind. "There is a world I know," she said slowly. "A world with people who have something the Hegemony does not understand. They have hearts that can care for anyone, even enemies. They have minds that can find solutions when there seems to be no hope. And they have courage that comes from protecting those they love." The advisors looked confused. "What world is this, Your Majesty?" "Earth," Zarathel said. "It is in the Sol system. The beings there are called humans." General Veltar shook his head. "Your Majesty, we have reports on that system. The humans are primitive. They have barely begun to explore their own star system. They have no advanced weapons or shields. How could they help us?" Zarathel smiled, remembering Jake's gentle hands healing her wounds. "General, there are kinds of strength that cannot be measured by weapons or technology. The humans have something that could turn the tide of this war. But first, I must go to them myself." "Go to them?" General Veltar looked shocked. "Your Majesty, That is far too dangerous. You cannot leave. The Empire now, especially to visit a primitive world. I made a promise long ago, Zarathel said firmly. And there is someone on that world who saved my life. I owe him a debt that cannot be repaid. It is time I honored my word. Zarathel stood up from her throne. Her armor glowed with determination. Prepare my fastest ship. I am going to Earth, and I am going to ask the humans to stand with us against the hegemony. But Your Majesty, another advisor said, why would primitive humans want to fight in a galactic war? What could we offer them? I will offer them the same thing a human once offered me, Zarathel said. Friendship, protection, and a chance to show the galaxy what they are truly capable of. Back on Earth, Jake was in his clinic late at night, taking care of a wolf that had been hit by a car. As he worked, he felt the crystal around his neck grow warm. He looked down and saw it was glowing brighter than it ever had before. Jake stopped working and held the crystal in his hand. It was pulsing now, like a heartbeat. After 15 years of silence, something was happening. Is that you, Luna? Jake whispered, using the name he had first given her. Are you coming back? The crystal pulsed stronger, and Jake felt emotions that were not his own. He felt determination, worry, hope, and something else. Love. The kind of love that comes from never forgetting someone who changed your life. Jake looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere up there, Zarathel was thinking about him. And if the crystal was glowing this bright, it meant she was coming to see him. Jake did not know about the hegemony or the war that was coming. He did not know that his world was about to become part of something much bigger than he could imagine. All he knew was that his friend was finally coming home. Over the next few days, the crystal grew brighter and brighter. Jake found himself looking up at the sky more often, wondering when she would arrive. He cleaned his cabin and made sure he had plenty of the fruits and vegetables that Zarathel liked to eat. Jake also thought about how much had changed since Zarathel left. He was older now, and she was probably very different too. Would they still be friends? Would she remember the simple veterinarian who had found her in the snow? But every time he held the crystal, Jake felt the same warm emotions he remembered from their time together. Some things never changed. Love and friendship could survive any amount of time or distance. Jake did not know that Zarathel's ship was already in the solar system, moving toward Earth. He did not know that her arrival would change everything for humanity. All he knew was that soon, very soon, he would see his alien friend again, and this time, she was coming not as a hurt and scared refugee, but as an empress with the power to protect or destroy worlds. But in her heart, she was still Luna, the small creature who had learned about love from a kind human in a cabin in the snow. The morning started like any other for Jake. He fed the animals in his sanctuary and checked on a deer that was healing from a broken leg. The crystal around his neck had been glowing brighter each day, but Jake tried not to think about it too much. He had learned over the years that hoping too hard for something could make the disappointment worse if it did not happen. But today was different. At exactly noon, the sky above Jake's sanctuary began to change. Dark shapes appeared among the clouds, growing larger by the second. Jake looked up and felt his heart stop. Massive ships filled the sky above Earth. They were beautiful but frightening, made of silver metal that reflected the sunlight like mirrors. The ships were so big they blocked out the sun in some places. Jake could see smaller ships moving between the larger ones like fish swimming around whales. All over the world, people were looking up at the sky in fear and wonder. News reporters were talking rapidly on television, but nobody knew what was happening. Governments were calling emergency meetings. Military forces were getting ready for what might be an invasion. But Jake knew this was not an invasion. The crystal around his neck was now glowing so bright he could see it through his shirt. This was Zarathel coming back, just like she had promised. One small ship separated from the fleet and began to descend toward Jake's sanctuary. It was elegant and graceful, moving without any sound. The ship landed gently in the field behind. Jake's cabin, the same place where Zarathel had left 15 years ago. Jake walked slowly toward the ship. His hands were shaking and his heart was beating fast. After all these years, was he really going to see her again? A door opened in the side of the ship and a figure stepped out. Jake gasped. The small creature he had once found in the snow was now a magnificent being who stood 7 feet tall. Her crystalline fur had grown into a flowing mane that sparkled, with all colors of the rainbow. She wore armor that seemed to be made of living metal, and it glowed with soft light. But her eyes were the same. Those golden eyes that Jake remembered so well looked at him with warmth and joy. "Hello, Jake," Zarathel said, her voice both spoken and heard in his mind. "I told you I would come back." Jake could not speak for a moment. He just stared at the powerful being who had once been small enough to hold in his arms. "Luna," he finally whispered. "You came back." Zarathel smiled and her fur glowed with happy colors. "I promised I would. I always keep my promises to those I love." Jake felt tears in his eyes. He walked closer to Zarathel, and she knelt down so they could be at the same height. Even though she looked very different, Jake could still feel the same gentle spirit inside her. "You look so different," Jake said. "So powerful, so important." "I am an Empress now," Zarathel said. "I rule over many worlds and many people, but with you, I am still Luna. I am still the small, scared creature you saved in the snow." Jake reached out and touched Zarathel's hand gently. Her armor felt warm under his fingers. "I never stopped thinking about you," Jake said. "I kept the crystal safe, just like you asked." "I know," Zarathel said. "I felt your kindness across all the years and all the distance between us. It gave me strength when being an Empress was hard." They talked for hours, catching up on everything that had happened. Jake told Zarathel about his sanctuary and all the animals he had saved. Zarathel told Jake about her empire and the challenges of ruling so many different worlds. But then Zarathel's expression became serious. "Jake, I must tell you why I have come back. It is not just to see you, though I wanted that more than anything. I came because Earth is in danger." Jake felt worried. "What kind of danger?" "There is an enemy called the Hegemony," Zarathel explained. "They are coming to destroy my empire and enslave my people. They are cruel beings who care nothing for peace or mercy, and their path of conquest will eventually lead them to Earth." Jake felt scared. "Are you saying Earth is going to be attacked?" "Not if I can help it," Zarathel said firmly. "But I need help to stop them. My empire is strong, but the hegemony is stronger. We need allies. We need people who can think in new ways and fight with courage and cleverness." Jake looked confused. "But what does that have to do with Earth? We do not even have ships that can travel between stars." Zarathel's eyes glowed with determination. "Jake, you humans have something that no other species in the galaxy has. You have hearts that can care for anyone, even enemies. You have minds that can solve problems in ways no one expects. And you have courage that comes from protecting those you love." She gestured toward the sanctuary, where animals of many different species lived together peacefully. "Look what you have built here," she continued. "Creatures that would be enemies in the wild live together in peace, because you showed them kindness. You take in any hurt animal and heal them, no matter how dangerous or different they are. This is not common in the galaxy, Jake. This is special." Jake thought about all the animals he had helped over the years. Bears and rabbits, wolves and deer, predators and prey, all living together because they had been shown love. "But how can humans help in a space war?" Jake asked. "We do not have advanced weapons or technology." "I can give you technology," Zarathel said. "But technology alone does not win wars. It takes heart and intelligence and the ability to inspire others to fight for what is right. These are things humans have in abundance." Just then, Jake's phone started ringing. It was the first of many calls that would come that day. News reporters, government officials, and scientists all wanted to know what was happening. The world had seen the ships in the sky and they were scared. "I think you are going to have to talk to more people than just me," Jake said. "The whole world wants to know who you are and what you want." Zarathel nodded. "I know, but I wanted to see you first. I wanted to talk to the human I trust most before I meet with your leaders. Will you help me, Jake? Will you help me explain to your people that I come in friendship?" Jake took a deep breath. This was much bigger than anything he had ever imagined. The small alien he had rescued had returned as an Empress, asking for Earth's help in a galactic war. But when he looked into Zarathel's golden eyes, he saw the same trust and love that had been there 15 years ago. She was still his friend, no matter how much power she now had. "Of course I will help you," Jake said. "What do you need me to do?" "Be yourself," Zarathel said simply. "Show your leaders the same kindness you showed me. Help them understand that there are good people among the stars and bad ones too, and that sometimes good people need to stand together to stop the bad ones." Over the next few hours, Jake helped Zarathel prepare to meet with human leaders. Phone calls were made, messages were sent, and arrangements were put in place. The world was about to change forever. As they worked together, Jake felt the same connection with Zarathel that he had felt all those years ago. She might be an Empress now, but she was still Luna. She was still the friend who had trusted him with her life, and now she was asking him to help her save not just her empire, but Earth as well. Jake did not know if he was brave enough or smart enough for such a big responsibility. But he knew one thing for certain: he would not let his friend down. 3 months had passed since Zarathel arrived on Earth. Those months had been the most exciting and frightening in human history. At first, many people were scared of the alien ships in their sky. Some governments wanted to attack, thinking Earth was being invaded, but Jake had helped Zarathel meet with world leaders. He translated not just her words, but her intentions. He helped humans understand that Zarathel came as a friend, not a conqueror. Slowly, trust began to grow between humans and the Kael'thari. Jake had become Earth's unofficial ambassador to the aliens. It was strange for a simple veterinarian from Montana to be talking with presidents and generals, but Jake's honest manner and his obvious friendship with Zarathel made him the perfect bridge between two very different worlds. During those 3 months, humans learned amazing things. Zarathel shared some of her technology, helping humans build better computers and cleaner energy. She also told them about the galaxy and the many species that lived among the stars. But most importantly, she prepared Earth for what was coming. The hegemony had not forgotten about the Kael'thari Empire. Their war fleet was moving through space, destroying everything in its path as it came closer to Kael'thari territory and Earth. Jake spent his days working with Zarathel and human scientists. His knowledge of biology turned out to be very useful when they studied information about the different species in the hegemony forces. Jake could understand how their bodies worked and what might hurt them or stop them. "The hegemony thinks humans are weak because you do not have advanced technology," Zarathel explained to Jake as they worked in a new laboratory built specifically for their cooperation. "But they do not understand that strength comes in many forms." Jake was looking at images of hegemony soldiers on a computer screen. They were big and scary, with thick armor and powerful weapons. "They look pretty strong to me," Jake said. "They are strong in body," Zarathel agreed. "But they are weak in spirit. They fight only for conquest and personal gain. They do not understand fighting for others or sacrificing for a greater cause. That is something humans do better than any species I know." As if to prove her point, volunteers from around the world had come to help prepare Earth's defenses. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and ordinary people worked together to get ready for the coming battle. They were scared, but they were determined to protect their world and help their new alien friends. On a cold morning in December, the hegemony finally arrived. Their ships came out of space like a dark cloud, hundreds of massive war vessels bristling with weapons. They were bigger and more numerous than Earth's defenders had hoped. The hegemony sent a message to Earth and to Zarathel's fleet. It was simple and cruel. Surrender now, or be destroyed. You cannot win against our power. But the hegemony had made a mistake. They expected to find Earth helpless and the Kelthari standing alone. Instead, they found something they had never seen before. Two completely different species working together as true partners. The battle began in space above Earth. Zarathel's ships fought alongside human vessels that had been upgraded with Kelthari technology. The fighting was fierce and difficult. The hegemony had more ships and bigger weapons, but the human Kelthari alliance had something the hegemony did not: perfect cooperation. Jake watched the battle from Earth's new command center. He was not a soldier, but his understanding of the enemy and his friendship with Zarathel made him valuable to the war effort. He helped coordinate attacks by using his knowledge of hegemony biology to find their weak points. Their breathing systems cannot handle certain gas mixtures, Jake told the human and Kelthari commanders. If we can get those chemicals into their ships, we can make them sick without killing them. This was typical of the human approach to war. Even when fighting for their lives, humans looked for ways to win without unnecessary killing. This confused the hegemony, who were used to enemies who fought with pure hatred. The battle raged for hours. Both sides took heavy losses. It looked like the hegemony's superior numbers might win the day. But then something unexpected happened. Other species from around the galaxy began to arrive to help. They had been watching the battle and were amazed by what they saw. The cooperation between humans and Kelthari, the way they protected each other and fought not just for victory but for justice, inspired others to join them. One by one, ships from a dozen different worlds came to join the fight. The hegemony suddenly found themselves outnumbered by an alliance they never expected. But the real turning point came when Jake had an idea that changed everything. Zarathel, he said over the communication system. The hegemony soldiers fight because they are forced to, not because they believe in their cause. What if we could talk to them? What if we could show them there is a better way? Talk to them during a battle? Zarathel asked. Jake, they are trying to kill us. That's exactly why we should try, Jake replied. When I found you in the snow, you were my enemy according to human movies about aliens. But I helped you anyway because it was the right thing to do. Maybe some of those hegemony soldiers are just scared and following orders. It was a crazy idea. But Zarathel trusted Jake's judgment. She ordered her ships to broadcast a message to the enemy fleet. But instead of threats or demands for surrender, the message was an offer of friendship and peace. We do not want to destroy you, the message said. We want to show you that there is a better way to live. Put down your weapons and we will welcome you as friends. There is room in this galaxy for all of us to live in peace. At first, nothing happened. The battle continued. But then, slowly, some of the smaller hegemony ships began to stop fighting. Their crews had heard the message and were tired of war. They wanted to try peace. More and more hegemony soldiers began to switch sides or simply stop fighting. The unity of the human Kelthari alliance, their offer of friendship even to enemies, and their genuine desire for peace instead of conquest was something many of the hegemony had never experienced. The hegemony leaders, seeing their forces crumble, not from military defeat but from moral awakening, finally agreed to talk instead of fight. The peace negotiations took place on Earth in Jake's home state of Montana. It seemed fitting that the talks should happen near the place where a human had first shown kindness to an alien. Jake was not a diplomat, but he was asked to help with the negotiations because both sides trusted him. His simple, honest way of talking helped the former enemies understand each other. We all want the same basic things, Jake told the assembled leaders from dozens of worlds. We want our families to be safe. We want enough food to eat and clean air to breathe. We want to explore and learn and grow. These are not human desires or Kalthari desires or hegemony desires. These are the desires of all living beings. The peace treaty that came out of those talks created the Galactic Cooperation Council. Instead of empires conquering each other, worlds would work together to solve problems and explore the universe. Trade would replace war, and friendship would replace fear. Zarathel was chosen as the first leader of the council, but she insisted that Jake serve as her advisor. "You showed me that one person's kindness can change the universe," she said. "Now help me show others." The ceremony to create the new alliance was held in Jake's animal sanctuary. Leaders from across the galaxy stood in the same field where Jake had once cared for hurt animals. Now, instead of healing wounded creatures, Jake was helping to heal the wounds between entire civilizations. As Jake stood next to Zarathel during the ceremony, he thought about the strange path his life had taken. A simple veterinarian who just wanted to help hurt animals had somehow become a bridge between worlds. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not found me that night?" Zarathel asked him quietly. "I try not to think about it," Jake replied. "I just did what felt right at the time." "That is what makes you special," Zarathel said. "You do what is right not because you expect rewards or recognition, but because your heart tells you to. That is a rare gift, and it has changed the fate of billions of beings." Jake looked around at the leaders from dozens of worlds, all working together to build a better future. In the distance, he could see the animals in his sanctuary, creatures from Earth living peacefully together because someone had shown them kindness. "Maybe," Jake said with a smile, "the universe is not so different from my animal sanctuary. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to feed a hungry creature and heal its wounds. Love and kindness work the same way everywhere." Zarathel's fur glowed with all the colors of the rainbow as she smiled back at him. "Then let us make sure the galaxy never forgets that lesson." Years later, when historians wrote about the Great Alliance and how peace came to the galaxy, they would call it a miracle. But Jake knew better. It was not a miracle. It was simply what happened when people chose kindness over fear, cooperation over conquest, and love over hatred. And it all began with a veterinarian who found a small, hurt creature in the snow and decided to save its life.